Constitution Foundational Association presents the Ken Fawcett series, ATF Injured Its Own Men at Waco, Texas. Hosted by Ken Fawcett and Gregory Salley. Produced by Mr. Gregory Salley. A critical analysis of media reports of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Assault activities of over 100 agents on the Branch Davidian church home in Waco. The following actual TV scenes are used to show that certain crimes may have been committed by ATF agents, including murder and injury to their own men as well as to Davidian members. Hello, this is Ken Fawcett. This is an aerial view of the Branch Davidian Center. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you'll notice the Branch Davidian Church bus, where reporters took up cover at near the end of their assignment.
This is Greg Salley, and we must ask the question, what jurisdiction did the ATF have to attack this church complex?
You know, I knew they were coming before they knew they were coming. Of course, you know, I look him in the eyes, and I told him, I said, Robert, you know, I love you, and I've shown you truth. It's right here out of your Bible. I said, now you have to deal with that now, what I showed you.
About 2 hours after the scene, officials remove a car that belonged to one of the ATF agents left in the parking lot. And now let's review the actual assault on February 28, 1993. From this camera's position just to the right of the front door, we can clearly see the 3 National Guard helicopter gunships coming in low and to the right and left. Also to the left of your screen, notice the 2 reporters clearly positioned in a tree above a white Ford van. By this time, church member Perry Jones has been mortally wounded by the front door, and Dave Koresh is nursing a bullet wound in his side. The first casualty was in the horse trailer on the way to the scene. Here an ATF nurse checks for a pulse.
The question must be asked, was this man killed by his own people, or was he killed by a sniper as reported by ATF?
The 8-man assassination team begins their ascent of the ladders on the south side of the complex. Notice that these men are dressed differently from the other assault team members. Also notice that as they climb this ladder on the right, they're going to attempt to break into what they believe is Koresh's bedroom. Agent Conway LeBleu is climbing the ladder on the right. He is the officer who had the self-inflicted gunshot wound in the upper thigh. Notice as he reaches for his semi-automatic pistol, it will discharge in the holster. Agent LeBleu is not mortally wounded and is able to carry out his mission. Although when he reaches the roof, he has a slight limp in his right leg. Luckily, the man under the ladder is not hurt. The team on the left continues their ascent and goes around the 3-story riser to the left and exposes themselves to fire from the front of the building. This, of course, would be friendly fire. Here we have an arrow detailing the buckling of Agent LeBleu's leg. Notice the windows and walls are still completely intact.
I'm rolling. Go back to the car and give me another tape then.
This arrow shows the front door of the house where Mr. Jones was killed and Koresh himself was injured. At this point, you can see where agents have climbed on the roof and cross over to the front part exposed to the friendly fire in the front. Here we see the tarp-covered trailer where later in the film a Davidian will be asking for peace and help for the injured ATF agents. Notice the plywood shack where earlier we had seen the first ATF casualty being attended to. And the 2 ATF cattle trailers where agents unloaded prior to the raid. The vehicles from which ATF agents in the front of the building took cover. Are there any holes in these vehicles? The church water tower, on top of which Peter Gent was sniped to death, his body remained there for 8 days. Here we have the northeast end of the building. There didn't appear to be any activity on the assault from this side. The complex swimming pool where Brad Branch and Oliver Garfus and friends spent many a hot summer afternoon. In this photo, taken about 2.5 hours after the initial raid, Agent Gonzalez has already removed his red pickup truck. This is the point at which agents believe was Koresh's bedroom. Little did they know he had already moved to the 4-story tower. Koresh's satellite dish, later used as a signal to the CFA and Ron Engelman for help. The window agents illegally bashed in on the day of the raid as they attempted to arrest Mr. Koresh. Here we see points of origin of gunfire coming into the complex. The top arrow shows the approximate location of helicopter firing at the tower. Here we see the point at which agents who had ascended the left-hand ladder exposed themselves to friendly fire from the front of the building. Branch Davidians stored the children's go-karts and bicycles here, which were later destroyed by ATF. This is the doghouse and kennel with chain-link fence that Mr. Schroeder's body will later be removed from. These are hay-type blocks left over from the construction of the flimsy bunker.
A serious question arises. By what jurisdiction and authority, by what rules did the ATF have to go by in serving a warrant? The only thing they had was a warrant. What crimes are being committed here before our very eyes by a force that we have no control over? Is this America? Is this the kind of America that you want? The question must be asked also of the media and the press. Was everything reported properly? Were crimes committed and not reported? This is a serious question that must be answered. Just who is the ATF and who do they serve? Who pays their paycheck? By what authority and what was the emergency under which the governor would allow 3 helicopters to be used to serve a warrant on a church home? It is reported that 2 reporters were in a tree prior to the assault. How did they have this information and who gave it to them? Was it the ATF? And was this collusion in an attempt to serve a warrant that results in crimes being committed? Who are the people involved? What must we do so that something like this can never happen again in America? Now let us look at this scene. Here is the front yard of the Davidian complex. We see the cattle trailer, we see the agents, we see the yard. This is a dirt yard, and we see the automobiles, and in a moment we're going to see all these agents firing. Now, they claim there was a tremendous, overpowering fire from within the building. But let's take a look at what's happening here. There isn't a single bullet that's hitting the ground anywhere. There isn't a single window or tire or surface of any vehicle that has been hit. There is no evidence here of any massive return fire from the building. And we will see later that the windows also are still intact for the most part. An independent investigative team would find that there are no incoming bullets to the ATF men. There are no broken windows. There are no shots fired into the vehicles. The investigative team must ask the question and find the answer. What are these men shooting at? What did they hit? Did they hit their own men? Who did they fire at? Why did they fire? What was the instruction? This is an ATF operation gone amok. What shall we do? We must have an independent investigative team. This scene shows the breaking of the window, which apparently the ATF thought was Koresh's room. The four men go up the right-hand ladder. They are a special team, and you will notice that the uniforms that they have are different. The whole problem that we see here is that three men went in and were said to have died. Then later the story was changed again. Please note that when these men go in this window, that they expose themselves. If there was someone inside this room, they certainly would have killed these three men before they got in the window. What shall we believe? Please note the concussion grenade. Is this legal? Is this the necessary force that's needed to serve a warrant? Look at the grenades on this man. What shall we have here in the way of police action?
Give me another tape then.
This man just threw in a hand grenade. We must ask why. Why did the film have such a glitch in it? Who was the one who spliced the film there? Was it the ATF or was it the original Channel 10 crew? Here we see the grenade throw in slow motion. It's a left-handed throw. We believe that is the second of 2 grenades that were actually thrown into the window. The first one will put shrapnel just to the left of the window. Notice concussion effect on the video camera. There's the second concussion. Shrapnel from the first grenade is already coming through the wall. 3, 4 pieces will appear within a millisecond of each other. Now shrapnel from the second grenade is coming through the roof and the eave. And pieces of room dust and sheetrock will come flying through the window, one of which will strike the man in the shoulder, knocking him to the roof. Fortunately, he is not severely injured and is able to roll around on the roof and eventually slide down the ladder to safety. Before this happens, he is warded away from the window by a comrade on the ground, telling him, "Don't go in there, friendly forces. Don't go in there, friendly forces." The shingle that you have seen over and over, which flies up and appears to be shot from the inside, has been determined that was actually a bullet fired from the ground and away from the building.
How many dogs look down out front? How many dogs look down out front?
If it is true, as government officials have asserted, that there is a Davidian inside that room firing outward, why does not this man fire his automatic weapon at the wall? This would be his best and most sure defense, if indeed there are enemy forces within that room. Certainly, it would have been much, much safer than rolling around on the roof like he does, and then having to slide all the way down the ladder with himself fully exposed on the roof. So let's ask the question again. Why doesn't he fire with his weapon into the room? Because he knows it's his friends. Why is this officer not yet in a hospital? Why were there no ambulances standing by on the scene? What happened to the ATF master plan? Why was injured officers transported on the hood of a news vehicle truck? We need to ask all these questions and bow our heads in prayer that this may never happen again. Why do these men not seem to be afraid for their lives? Why is there no evidence of gunfire into that flimsy wooden shack? What is the training of these men? Why do they not wear flak jackets like the others? Near the end of the firefight now, and the agents are bleeding in the room thought to have been Carisha's bedroom, and we'll see in a moment a better shot of the windows on the building. There are only a few broken on that side. Where is all the gunfire that Agent Killeran and Agent Conroy had spoken of when he said 40 or 50 positions were firing at them from within the compound? Where is that fire? In a moment, we will know that one of those agents that's in the room was able to stagger out onto the roof, and Mr. Gonzalez is heard to say, "Who's on the roof? Who's on the roof?" Fires his weapon, and we believe that there is a question that needs to be answered. Did he fire the shot that killed one of the agents that was coming out of that room? These are the questions that we ask. There are many more that can be raised through scrutiny of these films. Experts can scrutinize these films far more thoroughly than we have been able to. And if they two have questions to ask, then let the public know that they were done properly.
The following scenes must be analyzed properly if we are to get the true character of the Davidians. What we see here is a man coming to a doorway asking for peace. What he is saying is that, I have something to tell you. You've got 3 men hurt in here bad. This is an overt act on the Davidians to stop the carnage that has been going on for over half an hour. The only reason that the assault on the Davidian complex was stopped was because Wayne Martin called 911, the sheriff's office in Waco, and arranged for a ceasefire. This is how it stopped. The carnage that went on was reported to be terrible. 4 ATF men dead, 14 to 16 wounded, and 5 Davidians reported dead, and an unknown number of wounded.
Ambulance, got it!
The independent investigative team must ask the serious question: what crimes have been committed by the ATF forces in this assault on the Davidian complex? Why hasn't the media reported these crimes?
Think back on these images in your mind. The tree where the reporters were, the 4-story tower that eventually became David Koresh's bedroom, ATF carrying the dead bodies off the roof, and of course what was thought to be Koresh's bedroom, but of course was just empty. We now know these things, and we can ask questions that need to be answered. Please join us in our call for an independent investigation. The man on the roof, with the blood trail from his head, was killed needlessly by the officer who asked, "Who's on the roof?" Once again, friendly fire.
Are these the victors or the oppressors? These are the weapons that are reported by ATF to be used inside the complex, and are legal weapons that can be owned by any American.
Back in Mount Carmel, ATF and other police agencies surrounded the compound, and the long standoff began. So did the post-mortem of the ray. Why it failed depends on who's talking for ATF on what day.
It appears that they knew we were coming, yes.
The main problem we had, I don't believe, is that we were outmaneuvered or outplanned. The problem we had is that we were outgunned. You know, they had bigger firearms than we had. They were able to shoot through doors, and due to that, you know, a lot of our agents were hurt.
What we had was someone who eliminated the element of surprise, which is what we needed, and in so doing, our agents walked into an ambush, and we'll find out who did that.
The tragedy of this whole affair is that people were killed on both sides. On the ATF, there are families who must now mourn the people that have been killed. On the Davidian side, there are only a few survivors. Why wasn't this plan of attack on a church complex more properly executed, more properly planned? Surely there's a crime that police officers should be able to understand the situations into which they go, and they should be protected. If the sheriff could have gone and arrested Mr. Koresh earlier, if Koresh had brought all his guns to the sheriff and shown them to him because someone said they had illegal weapons and that none were found, surely that could have been repeated. Is it necessary that this man, this ATF man, should have lost his life? Did he get killed by his own people inadvertently or on purpose? We must ask the questions, and we must find the answers. This should never happen again in America. This is America. This is not Nazi Germany. This is not Stalinist, communist Russia. This is America. Where do these people come from? Who directs them, and for what purpose? We must find those answers. There are crimes clearly committed here. Is this a scene that should be repeated in America again? We do not think so. We do not think that the majority of Americans believe that it should ever occur again, or believe that it should have ever occurred in the first place, when the local sheriff could have taken care of it. What jurisdiction does the ATF have in Texas or any other state? We must find out. We must ask the question. It cannot be left to people who we do not know, who we do not elect. Who is in charge of this fiasco? Why did it happen? Will it happen again? We must find the answers.
McLemore's news unit was used to transport some of the wounded agents. Currently, his bosses are consulting with attorneys before issuing a statement.
The investigative team must find out why this could ever happen in America.
That there will be agents suspended or fired as a result of what happened. Can you talk about that at all?
What I had mentioned, we're extremely proud of what happened out there, how our agents conducted themselves under some unbelievable circumstances.
Just were these unbelievable circumstances referred to by the ATF spokesman? We need to know. The investigating team must have the final answer on what really went on. We hear many stories. Many of them are contradictory. We don't know if this is because the press is not reporting a full story or if they were censored. If there was censorship, what about the First Amendment? What can we do to prevent anything like this happening again? This is an assault on the rights of Americans, on their sovereign rights as citizens of the state of Texas and of this great United States. Can we allow this kind of action to go on with a police force over which we have no control, no say, and that can blatantly mix up its stories and expect the public to believe that they are correct all the time? Look how far from the scene of the actual complex that these media trucks were. Why was it necessary to remove them 2 miles or more from the scene? What shall we do in the future so that we'll never have this happen again?
Why was this young man murdered? On the top of the water tower, his body lay for 8 days before, on March 8th, the FBI announced that they would allow the Davidians to have a proper burial for him. His name was Peter Gent from Australia, shot by a sniper bullet the evening after the initial raid. Armed only with a rust scraper, he had come out of the water tower after a long day's work inside scraping rust. We have to ask the question, why did the FBI come back on Thursday's press conference following the Sunday he was killed and try to explain away his death as part of a 3-man assault upon a 500-member law enforcement team? It just doesn't make sense. In typical FBI HRT, that's hostage rescue team tactics, the FBI removes the body under the cover of darkness with a helicopter grappling hook. It was so decayed by the 8th day that one of the legs that the grappling hook was attached to tore loose and the body fell to the ground. The Davidians were allowed to bury the remains near the north end of the complex the following day. Can we please allow Mr. Gent's family to exhume his remains?
Of the 8-part series or something, they had a photograph on the front page, and when I saw the picture, that's the first thing that I thought was, this person has been in here.
That statement from the manager of Chelsea Street Restaurant indicates that there is proof Mr. Koresh could have been arrested off the premises. What about the children? So well behaved, so well mannered. Are these the children of cultists? Why are they so well educated? They look so content. And why is it that Janet Reno says she felt like the Davidian children had been abused? It just doesn't jive with what the Child Protective Services had found out in 2 earlier investigations.
Appear to be smart, well-educated, very sharp children. They seem to have been very well cared for.
Child Protective Services officials say the freed children are being kept together in a family setting.
They seem very much like their brothers and sisters. They are interacting as you might see children of a family reacting.
An alcohol, tobacco, and firearms official in Washington claims the agency had heard before the raid that the cult was contemplating mass suicide.
We were making good progress, I believe, in getting the children out of the compound. It seems that we have hit somewhat of a stalemate. We have made repeated offers for compromise on various issues. Once we appear to be going forward in meeting what they are requesting, oftentimes they are rejecting even proposals that they have submitted. So we are going through a very frustrating and disappointing period in the negotiation process.
Maybe the FBI never did negotiate with Mr. Koresh in good faith. Maybe all along this was just a stall tactic by the federal government to figure a way to cover their atrocious acts the previous week.
Question is, he is waiting for a message. What is the message? He tells us that he has been told by God to wait until he should come out. So he is waiting for a message from his God that it is time, in fact, for him to come out. Yes.
And how does he expect to get this message from God? Is it going to come by?
I have no idea how he expects to get the message.
One of the precious rights that we have here in America is the right to religious freedom. Why is this officer of the government putting down the religion of this group of people?
Question is, will we ever give them a deadline? We have avoided deadlines unless we're willing to follow up on those deadlines. And with regard to whether we would ever go back in there or not, again, we're getting into a tactical area that I'm not going to discuss. But, as you said, our belief is that they are going to come out. They are going to answer for the crimes that they have committed.
Is it a crime in America to prejudge someone? Are they innocent until proven guilty? What crimes did they really commit? What crimes are they guilty of? And how should they be punished?
Is this a scene from Bosnia? No, it's Waco, Texas. Why are tanks running up and down our streets not being reported on the evening news? Bright lights and constant noise led to a continuous deterioration in the minds of the Davidians.
The FBI are trying a new tactic. A powerful arc light illuminates the compound, making sleep a little difficult.
News reports were that all was usually quiet at the Branch Davidian complex, but nothing could have been further from the truth. The FBI used the cover of darkness to pull most of their dastardly deeds.
Since when does police work justify using psychological warfare of this type? What is going on here? What must we do to stop it?
As the standoff entered its third week, it became increasingly clear that the Davidians were frustrated with the negotiations. They made attempts to contact outsiders with Morse code messages sent at night. The FBI responded with bright lights heretofore unseen in the siege and a laser-equipped monochromatic light to try to mask the signals coming from Koresh's window. It was a desperate attempt to cry out for help. The FBI did everything in its power to see that it was ignored. What can we do to ask questions as to what the conditions must have been like to cause someone to resort to sending Morse code messages under these circumstances. Notice the Bradley that pulls in position in a threatening location under the window. In other words, you better turn those lights off, buddy, or we're going to fire at you.
These towers are reported to be low-frequency and high-frequency generators used in psychological warfare for military purposes. Are we at war with the Davidians? What shall we do about the violation of the Omnibus Crime Control Act of 1991? Is this a violation of the Policeman's Accountability Act? Is this the way we're going to serve warrants in the future? What is happening to our country?
We completely control the compound. We have the ability at any time to turn off the electricity or any access that they may have with the outside world.
Meanwhile, a group known as the CFA, or Constitutional Foundation, has charged agents with alcohol, tobacco, and firearms with accidentally shooting the first shot, triggering the gun battle.
The information about who fired the first shot came from the Texas Department of Public Safety. One of the things that must be brought to the attention of the viewers is this. Who is the Department of Treasury headed by former Senator Benson? Who pays their paycheck and who do they serve? Under the legal instruments that you will see later, you will find that the Treasury Department serves the United Nations, the IMF, and the World Bank. And Secretary Benson is not paid by the American people. We now have a foreign power who has put its people into the state of Texas and is therefore a foreign power alien to the state of Texas.
A new banner has been unfurled at the Branch Davidian camp, this time proclaiming "Send in CFA and Don Stewart."
CFA was invited by the Davidians to come inside the compound to help make a peaceful settlement of this tragic affair. The ATF and the FBI refused to allow this. CFA was stopped at the barricade and only the press was allowed to go in. CFA believes that a peaceful solution could have been made at this time. Was it necessary that so many should die needlessly at the church complex at Mount Carmel? Why would this ever happen in America? What must we do to stop this so it will never happen again? Is this America, the land of the free, or is this a dictatorship by a foreign power? We must take back our country immediately. CFA brought in 2 fine physicians to help in this matter.
My interest is to see if we can help to diffuse the situation and to bring some people out. That's our goal.
Willing to risk your life to do it?
I'm willing to go in there, and if someone needs some care, I'll provide what little I can.
What mostly concerns me at this time is that I don't want to see a massacre.
Stewart appeared on this Dallas radio talk show host's recent program.
We want people to know that these people inside obviously need doctors, need medical care.
On Monday, April 19th, 5 a.m., I receive an anonymous call from Waco telling me to get my tape rolling because this is the beginning of the end. As you can see from our computer model, tanks began knocking down the walls.
Inside the walls of the compound, and they would shoot in the CS gas, keeping inside there a non-lethal dosage of that gas, which is an irritant and can even cause, Agent Rick said, nausea. But the adults, they know, have gas masks, and perhaps the children too, but they want to keep a non-lethal level of that gas inside the compound and wear down the resistance. Each time that armored vehicle
went up to the compound to insert more gas. They were met by gunshots. A total of, Agent Rick said, about 200 gunshots fired by cult members toward the FBI. Although, Rich, they were careful to emphasize that the FBI did not return any shots to cult members, and so far this morning, no new injuries because of this assault. Is that correct?
Mr. President, did you authorize the move on Waco this morning, sir?
I was aware of it. I think the Attorney General made the decision. Right. And I think I should refer all questions to her and to the FBI.
Did you have any instructions for her as to how it should be executed?
They made the tactical decisions. That was their judgment, the FBI. And is this a rig? And I want to refer you to talk to the Attorney General of the FBI. I knew that it was going to be done, but the decisions were entirely theirs.
Reportedly, the president was very involved in monitoring the situation here. One description is he was micromanaging it from Washington. You heard him say Janet Reno made the authorization. She is the U.S. Attorney General in charge of the Justice Department, which is in charge of the FBI. ATF also notified Lloyd Benson, who is the boss for the Treasury Department, and that, of course, includes ATF. But President Clinton, watching this from afar, watching it very closely, certainly did not say no when the plan was presented to him for approval. If David Koresh has his radio, he heard Bob Ricks say at the briefing that they're going to try to gas him out, and the way to do it is to continue to go to different areas in that compound where you think people might be and just keep lobbing the gas in there. Something like 180 rounds now so far have been probably closer to 200 rounds of CS gas, non-lethal gas, but painful and irritating to anyone who's in its path. Lobbed into that compound so far.
And Brad, this has been probably the most active that these M60 tanks have been. First it made just to the left there a good-sized hole, and now it's back at the front door again.
Definitely stepping up the pace.
This is Bob Ricks talking about the gas.
Gas was inserted using a Mark V delivery system secured to a boom. Also, non-pyrotechnic delivery systems were utilized to insert CS gas. The occupants in the compound were advised, this is not an assault. Do not fire. If you fire, your fire will be returned. We are introducing non-lethal tear gas. Exit the compound now and follow instructions. You are responsible for your own actions.
Hodgepodge that actually some of the masks may prove to be ineffective. They think that even if they're in crawl spaces and bunkers, that the gas will get to them there. So you take bits of that building out, bits of that structure out, and you continue to fire in the tear gas. As best we know, those armored vehicles are receiving fire back, 10 to 12 rounds each time the armored vehicle goes into the building. The very first time, anywhere from 75 to 80 rounds was received by that.
And Mike, we are looking at fire from inside the cult compound, smoke coming out of one of the windows.
We don't know exactly what that is, whether it's a smoke bomb that they've released smoke down there before.
Right.
It's coming out of the window, Mike, which is the fourth window from to the right of what used to be the front door there.
And if there are any of our military specialists on the line in my ear, they might be able to tell me whether or not it's conceivable that a canister like that might also ignite a fire. It looks to be black smoke. It's fire, but what...
And it looks to be intermittent. It starts and stops and starts and stops.
It seems to be. Now we see flames.
There are
seeing flames coming out of it.
The compound is on fire.
And Clint Bond, our assignments editor, tells me that a canister could, in fact, start a fire inside a compound, inside the building there.
But earlier, the FBI agent in charge, Bob Ricks, one of the commanders down there, had said that if they really wanted to go in and destroy this building, it would take them, in effect, about 60 minutes. Well, fire did it in 50 minutes.
Yeah, fire did it in less. And you can see here, this is how it started. We watched just the smoke billowing out and then the flames licking out of the window.
As the Branch Davidian Center burns to the ground, it's widely reported that 86 persons remain inside. However, later reports are that only 52 bodies have been recovered, and the press smells a cover-up. This is your wake-up call, ladies and gentlemen. Write your congressman. We need answers. We need the truth. The truth will set everyone free. Thank you very much.